Welcome to this next podcast. Now, I reached out to this guest on TikTok because he had not only millions of views, but the main reason that I reached out to him was for his no bullshit approach to business. And when I say no bullshit, what I mean is when he does his TikToks, he's giving great advice to people who are thinking about starting their own business, the pitfalls to look out for, you name it, he's advising on it. Me personally, I'm a great believer that so many people are looking for great advice. And the best people to get it from are people who are in business already and have walked that walk. This next guest owns a company called Boss Pizza. He's a multi-millionaire. If you're looking for advice or inspiration or that moral boost to get a business going, or you're in business and you're just looking for something else that might be missing or whatever, this guy's got the answers. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of tea and enjoy this episode of Entrepreneur TV. Listen, first of all, thanks for coming on the podcast. You've came a long way to come on here, but I'm super privileged that you've came on because I've seen you on TikTok. I see what you're doing for business. I think it's amazing, but I want to go back to the beginning.
Let's do it.
Where do you come from and where did you grow up?
So I was born in Glasgow, brought up in Hamilton, stayed there my whole life, the son of immigrants, and that's where I grew up. And sorry, before we start, as a fellow Scotsman, you're going to call out, if you detect a hint of bullshit, you're calling it out.
I'm calling it out, don't worry about that.
Let's push the envelope here. Let's get to some hard-hitting topics today.
Your mum and dad, what did they do?
So my mum and dad grew up as farmers in a village in Pakistan, and then in the late 60s they came over. They settled in Huddersfield, worked in the factories, and then they moved up to Scotland. And my dad worked in a restaurant for a few years, and then within about 8-9 years he actually built his own restaurant. He made his own restaurant.
And that was in Hamilton?
That was in Glasgow.
In Glasgow.
Yeah, at that point there were 3. My dad's restaurant was in a village outside Glasgow called Bridge of Weir, and at that point that was the 3rd Indian restaurant in Scotland.
So you grew up then with the family in business?
Yes.
And what kind of childhood did that give you if they were in business a lot?
Yeah. Opposite of what anyone would think. My childhood, for me and my siblings, and for all immigrant children, it was exactly the same. It was hard. The parents, the fathers were at work. There was no disposable income. There were no holidays. There was no fancy branded clothes. There weren't very many toys. And this would resonate with all immigrant children because the focus for the parents was to come to this country and to better their lives. It wasn't to come to this country, save up some money, and then go on a spending spree on a few unnecessary or lavish things. So it was childhood for me, and many immigrant children would have been very, very tough.
Was your dream to go into the family business and work with it and then eventually take it over?
No. So when I left school, I worked with my father in the restaurant. I loved it. At that point, I had no education, worked there for 5 years as a waiter. I learned a lot, but there was something else inside me. I knew I had so much more to give. So then I went to Glasgow Uni, studied law, and then from there I went to, got a job with Accenture, which is the world's #1 management consultancy. They've got 750,000 people working for them now, which is phenomenal.
And where are they based?
London. Well, it's a global IT company, but I was working in London. Worked there for the best part of a decade. And at that point, my father was close to retirement. In fact, he was beyond retirement. He was over 65. He was struggling with the business. This was a tiny mom and pop shop. It was a 30-seater, tiny little restaurant that provided my dad with a wage. At that point, I was working in London, earning nearly 6-figure salary. My wife was on great wages. We had built up their dream lifestyle, and we were then going to sacrifice that dream lifestyle, great job, holiday, bank holidays, weekends, evenings, all off. We were going to sacrifice all of that to move back to Hamilton and take this business on and try to grow it.
Your mum and dad's business?
Yeah. So I bought my father out, but listen, it was a tiny little restaurant, 30-seater. I think it was the smallest restaurant in Hamilton, and I took a major step down. I mean, I was earning mega money in London at that point, and so was my wife. So we took a major step down to take over this business. And we played the long game. The aim was to take over this restaurant and to build it into something amazing, and that we did that.
And what age were you at this point?
I started my business when I was 35.
So you were 35 at this point?
Yeah.
You're in the restaurant, you've moved back from London. What was your point of saying, no, we have to sell this, or this isn't going to work, we have to change direction?
Well, I didn't sacrifice a near six-figure salary, and my wife didn't sacrifice her salary to come and earn £400-500 a week from a tiny little restaurant. That wasn't the plan. For us to earn the same amount of money that we were earning in London, we would have to completely transform the business, and that's what we did.
And how did you do that?
Well, I had £70,000 in the bank, invested in £70,000, stripped out the menu, back to 10 dishes on the menu. Every single task in the business was wrapped with systems, processes, training, professionalism, and then we implemented a 29-minute delivery guarantee, ran that campaign for 5 years, and that's what put that business on the map.
What was the turning point to say, this is no for us, we need to sell it or move on to the next venture? What happened there?
Okay, so let me go back. Talking about business strategy, you should never be afraid to change direction. The very first weekend of my business, when I was 35 years old, I had a plan to open up a chain of restaurants, right? That was my plan. The very first Saturday, 4 days into my new business venture, I completely changed strategy. And for anyone watching this, never be afraid to change direction. And the tipping point was this. The restaurant was open. It was heaving. It was busy. Every table, used 4 times. We had a mega night. I did the cash up at the end of the night, and I thought, is that it? Is that all the money we're going to earn? Because we're restricted by the physical walls and the number of tables. And at that point, I decided the future of this business sits in the takeaway space, because takeaway is unlimited. Never be afraid to change direction.
What did your mum and dad say when you were having a conversation with them that I'm changing direction with a business that they've built up?
Well, at that point, remember, it was a small business. It wasn't a mega operation. It was just a small mom and pop shop. And my dad knew that he's 65 years old, and this is the great thing about my father. He's very astute when it comes to business, and he knows that there is a time where you just have to let go of what you've built up or what you've got. And it's time for the new generation. It's all about technology, it's about systems, it's about professionalism. So I had a very clear discussion with my dad. Dad, I'm taking over this business. I want to buy you out, and I want no interference. And my dad was totally fine with that.
He was happy with that?
Yeah. So there was a clear break. I didn't want to be doing one thing, and then my father coming in and saying, oh, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. My dad was great. My mum and parents, both of them, were absolutely amazing at that point.
They're still giving you great advice, your mum and dad?
Yeah.
Common sense advice, as you called it.
100%. So, Kevin, think about this. How much more do you know now than 20 years ago?
True.
Yeah, how much more do you know? You know a lot more, right? And it's the same with me. How much more do I know when I was a teenager? But remember, when we were teenagers, we knew everything. Yeah. And it's exactly the same. When I look at my parents, I see two old people, right? But what I see is like 40 plus years of extra experience that I've not got. This is life experience. And my parents are just phenomenal when it comes to just bringing me back down to earth and reality, and everything they've said over the years has just really hit the mark. And I'll tell you one thing. My mother, I think when I was about 30, 40, I thought maybe she's a bit negative, she's a bit pessimistic. But see now, every single thing she says is absolutely on the mark. I'll give you an example. I bought a property next door to my business a few years in, I was delighted. I was showing everyone. I was like, check this out, come on. Let me show you my new property. And my mum said, don't show too many people. No one is going to be happy for you. And I thought, Mum, come on, that's rubbish. Everyone's happy for me. But now looking back, that just invites a lot of envy and jealousy, and she was so right.
Everywhere around the country, there's organisations that are set up to try and help people that are going to start in business. And I've seen a few examples in this town where these experts are giving solid advice to new business startups. And then I see them open up in a location with no footfall. And I think, why were they giving advice to open up there? My question is, how important is it that you get the right advice from the right people? Like, you got it from your mum and dad. They had that business experience. Should somebody starting in business question somebody that's giving them advice and say, well, look, you're giving me this advice. What experience have you got in life? Do you know what I mean?
100%. I say this all the time. Never take advice from people who you're not willing to trade places with. You're right. There are so many experts giving crap advice, and I never, ever take advice from experts. I do my own research, read my own books, look at my own videos on YouTube. I make up my own decisions. I don't actually take any experts' advice unless they are financially doing better than me.
I want to take you on to your family holidays. I watched a video and another podcast that was actually quite touching, where you go on holiday and you took some cash with you, but you don't use that cash to buy stuff for yourself. You did it to help others. Tell us about that.
Right. Anyone watching this, right, when we go on holiday, we end up just buying rubbish. T-shirts, handbags, trinkets. And when I go on holiday, I don't need any of that stuff. I just view that as clutter. So when I go on holiday, I always take a few £1,000s and I just give that away to people who are trying but maybe just struggling a little bit. And the type of people I give it away to are the people that are invisible to holidaymakers. We see the glitz, the glamour, we see the shows, the great food. But see, if you look beyond that, there's so much poverty. And each time I go on holiday, I always take a few £1,000s and give that to people. So it would be people like someone selling bread on a street corner. It would be the gardeners working in 50 degrees heat. You know, when we're walking about the holiday resorts, we see them, but we don't actually see them. They're invisible to us. When we see the porters, the kitchen porters, you know, like I make a point of asking the general manager, I did this in the Hilton in Dallamana, I said, can I see the kitchen? I wasn't interested in seeing the kitchen. So he gave me a tour of the kitchen. Then when it got to the pot wash area, I gave the 2 pot washers the equivalent of a month's salary. I just slipped it to them very quietly. And that was the only reason I wanted to see the kitchen. So I think if you're blessed enough, and many of us are so blessed in this country, I think it's always good to be able to give, to be as charitable as possible. And I get that trait from my mother. She's been very, very charitable over the years. She's selfless in the sense that she doesn't buy herself any nice stuff or, you know, luxury stuff or anything, but she's always willing to help others. And I think just by default, I've just seen that my whole life, and that's what I do as well.
Do you feel yourself ever getting burnt out and you think, do you know what, I just need to stop? How do you deal with burnout?
There is so much bullshit on the internet. I have heard so many gurus saying, if you are passionate about something, you can never get burnout. That is bullshit. Do not believe that. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you're passionate about running, right? You can run a marathon. Your body and mind needs to rest before you move on to the next marathon. It does not mean you're passionate about running that you can just run constantly for weeks upon weeks, months, years on end. Every single person needs to stop and recharge. And I burnt out in 2018. I was in love with what I was doing. I was working 6-7 days a week constantly, day, night, phone going, and I just didn't switch off at all. And slowly the burnout crept up on me. I didn't even realise I was burning out until the point I actually burnt out. And you know what happened? I took my phone one day and I just deleted all of my contacts off my phone. I stopped talking to people. That's how bad it got. And then it took me almost 6 months I realised then, when I was burnt out, that I am now well and truly burnt out, and then it took me 6 months to recover.
Do you feel yourself getting burnt out now, or do you take things a lot easier?
Oh no, now The phone is off in the evenings. I take 2 days off a week. I work 6 hours a day. So now I've got the elements in place that would enable me to work effectively and not get burnt out.
Now, I found you on TikTok and I reached out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And something I noticed on TikTok, which only happens to celebrities, and I've seen it with friends of mine who are celebrities, there's so many accounts impersonating who you are to try and I've actually, yeah, sure, follow me back and wait for the message to come because I know what's coming. Educate people what's happening with trolls that are doing that to you.
Okay, so I have got one original account, that is my account. And the sad thing is there are now so many scam accounts using my name. It's got Ajmal with 2 L's or Ajmal Mushtaq 01, Ajmal _ Mushtaq. There's so many. And what they do is they follow my followers and then they reach out to them and say, would you like have you thought about diversifying your investment portfolio or whatever? They're trying to lead you down the road to invest in Bitcoin or crypto or some other scam. I would never contact or message any of my followers and say, listen, would you like to invest in a course or Bitcoin or crypto? So please do not fall for those scams.
How did that make you feel when you started seeing these fake accounts though?
Well, naturally it's annoying, but understand scammers are going to be they've been around for a long time and they're going to be around for a long time to come. So I think that's part and parcel of having somewhat of a following on TikTok. Naturally, it's going to attract the scammers where they feel they can maybe get access to some of my followers and try and rip them off for some money.
One of the things I want to touch on, which maybe a lot of folk don't want to touch on, is you're from Glasgow, your family's from Glasgow, you've built the business up, you've started this venture with Boss Pizza. I sometimes get it living in England, but I don't know how you deal with it, and does it still happen? And I'm talking about racism. How are you dealing with this? Is it still out there? How how's it affecting you, your family, your son, and things? Because this is 2025 nearly, it should be over. We shouldn't have any of this stuff, but it seems to be prevalent everywhere you look.
Yeah, I think there is, racism is still alive and kicking. Back in the 1980s, I would be walking along the road with my mum. I would be maybe 5-6 years old. My mother, with her 4 children, would be walking along, and across the road, I remember there would be groups of men hurling racist abuse at her. Right? And I think that is, I would love to meet those guys today. Grown men abusing in the worst possible way a woman walking along with her 4 children. You packy bastard, you National Front, there's no, what was it, I can't even remember, National Front, you black bastard. It was horrendous. Back then, we witnessed, like many immigrants, we witnessed the racism firsthand. Then what happened, there was more regulation, the penalties were more severe, and I think the racism went underground. And what's happened with the recent riots is bubbled back up to the surface. So what that's telling us, racism, it's always been there, but I think society, the racists have got better at masking it, and just in the recent riots, the masks came off and they're exposed.
I can see in the background you're working so hard, and if I'm being honest and blunt, you're providing jobs to people who might not be of a different race to pay their mortgages. We're relying on guys like you. You're building these thriving businesses. You don't need to build these thriving businesses. You could have stayed in London and kept your $100,000 a year job, but you chose to come away from that. That takes me on to, if you don't mind talking about it, is your 14-year-old son is appearing on your TikToks. You're educating him. Tell me how he's embracing that and how that's coming about. Yeah,
so my son's on £3 an hour. And I am starting to teach him the ways of business. And the reason he's on £3 an hour is because he didn't do his research. Had he done a simple Google search, he would have known that the minimum wage is £6.40. And that's a lesson. So I'm going to keep him on £3 an hour.
Well, he's going to watch this and now he's going to Google it.
He's going to be on £3 an hour. And the lesson there for him is know your value. and we all do it in life. Whatever your business is, whatever your service is, how much should you charge? And there's no hard science around that, so we just charge what we think, and often we undersell ourselves. So the very first lesson for my son is never undersell yourself and know your value.
Is he enjoying the teaching he's getting?
Oh, he's loving it
at Boss Pizza. He seems to be loving it on the videos.
He's loving it. And I spoke to my son about work. I said, when are we going? We're going back into work. He said, work? I said, what do you mean, Dad, we're going to work? And I said, what you did last time when you came on last Tuesday? And he goes, oh, no. That wasn't work. That was me just playing on your phone. So he was in my office. He had to post on social media, had to post in the multiple different accounts on my phone. And for him, he didn't even regard that as work. He thought that was just tinkering around in the phone. So that was quite interesting. So he now realises that work is actually quite easy.
I want to talk about the foundations of Boss Pizza. Mm-hmm. And the question I've got is because I've noticed what you've done, and what you've done is the complete opposite of what somebody else would do. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody is going to try and open 1,500 shops mm-hmm. throughout Britain, mm-hmm. what they're going to do is they're going to open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you did that last, and you did the foundations first. Mm-hmm. To make sure that you had the infrastructure to deal with that. Yep. And the reason I'm saying that is because I had a conversation about you with somebody, and they actually said to me, I said to them, and they turned around and said to me, but what if it fails? And I said, but he's did the foundations, not even thinking about failing. Yeah. That's the difference with somebody saying, no, it's not going to fail. Yeah. Talk to me about the foundations of Boss Pizza and what you've put in place.
At this moment in time, Boss Pizza has got 3 stores, but we've got big ambitions to grow. In the last 3 years, I have spent building a solid foundation. That solid foundation. So I've got partnerships with some of the biggest brands in the franchise space. So, for example, HSBC to do the financing, 01 Creative to do all the shop fitting. So I'm building a capability that would allow us to open up 1 store per week. And that's what my focus has been on. I'm in no rush to get out there and show the world, oh, look, now we've got 7, 8 stores, now we've got 20. I'm in no rush. We're getting the right franchise partners on board. We're getting the right partners for the foundation. So when we do start to scale up, we will scale up well and very swiftly.
And that's so that the small leak doesn't sink the big ship.
Exactly.
I seen that TikTok you did about that, which is true.
Yeah, and I talk about that. So if you're running a business, make sure you've got an iron grip on all of the expenses, because a small leak can sink a big ship. And you know, Kevin, it's not the one big tax bill that's going to blow you out the water. It's a little, you're paying extra wages here, you're overpaying a supplier there, you've maybe got a subscription you're paying over here. It's all of these little things that add up that can often be the difference between your ship staying afloat or sinking. So be very, very careful around the expenses in your business.
I've seen another video about how you split your time, 15% on that. Tell me about that, splitting your time.
I'm blessed, I've had success, and for me, my success has been mathematical. I have split up my diary in a very systematic way, and I've applied that for 15 years, and it's worked. So 15% of my time is spent managing, motivating, enthusing my people. 15% of my time is spent on the front line with the customers. 15% of my time is spent scrutinizing, quality controlling the product, right? That's 45%. Then 5% of my time is spent on admin, paying the bills, attending to emails, etc. But the key thing, Kevin, is I spend 50% of my time promoting the business. And I say there is no point doing a good job if no one knows about it.
Sales, it's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, sales, marketing. So at this moment, wherever I go, people know about Boss Pizza. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we've only got 3 shops, we're tiny. But everyone, they already know about the brand. So that's what I'm saying. Get out there and tell the world that you're doing a great job.
And I think they're getting to know it because of things like TikTok.
Yeah.
So what made you jump on TikTok and build your account up? Because you've got a really strong account and a really strong brand on there.
I don't talk bullshit. I like to get to the point fast, and TikTok, finally, after all of these years, TikTok is actually the platform for me. So for example, if you go onto YouTube and you Google how to change a light bulb, it's a 5-minute video, and the thing that we want to see is maybe only 10 seconds long, but there's 4.5 minutes of padding. Hi, thanks for joining. Thanks for viewing my account. If you like watching people change light bulbs, subscribe, follow for more. We put out 2 new videos every week. All that fluffy nonsense, I don't like it. So as a Scotsman, I like to get to the point as fast as possible, using the minimum number of words, and that's why TikTok really suits me.
I get angry when I see people on TikTok saying, you can earn 10 grand a month, easy. And I'm thinking, I'm 56 and I've never known earning 10 grand a month to be so hard.
Yeah.
I don't believe this stuff exists. What do you think?
Bullshit. Everybody in the UK at this moment, every single person in the UK is earning £10,000 a month, apart from you and I. Am I right?
You're right.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm a business owner. I've been doing business. I'm 49 now. I know how difficult it is to earn £10,000. But everyone that's a magic number. Everyone seems to be earning. I don't know how they do it. And I think if it was that easy, they wouldn't be making videos about it. They would actually be out there doing that 2, 3, 4, 5 times over and earning £50,000 a month instead of 10,000. And I'll tell you one thing: people who are earning genuine money, earning genuine money are out there earning the money. They're not stopping and setting up a course and saying, oh, by the way, this is how I make £20,000 a month or £10,000 a month. They're not doing it. The people that are selling those courses, how to make £10,000 a month, that is their only gig, selling courses and content.
So the way to earn 10 grand a month is basically get your nose down and do some hard graft.
Yeah, hard graft. I mean, that's the way I do it. And
there's
it works.
no quick shortcut route.
You don't know. Nobody watching this, not a single person watching this knows anyone who's made loads of money by doing not very much work. Yet the gurus are saying you can lie on a beach with a laptop and you can make X amount of thousands or millions of pounds. Yet you don't know a single person. That's your answer right there. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Let me tell you something else. I'm blessed financially. I'm doing very well. I was looking through my phone. I've got 27 multimillionaires in my contact book, right? And I've got one guy who's created £1 billion company. Not one single one of them are on social media flexing. So see, the people that are on social media flexing, I don't think they've got it. Most of them probably haven't got it, but they need to show that they've got it in order to people buy into them. But the people who have got, the genuine wealth, they're nowhere to be seen on social media. And I can testify based on the number of contacts in my phone.
National expansion of Boss Pizza.
Mm-hmm. That's going to happen.
How are you going to do it?
Well, we've built the franchise model. So this time next year, you should expect to see a Boss Pizza open in every one of the major cities across the UK. So we are at the point now, we're ready to start opening stores.
And talking about stores, you're taking over stores that are already pre-built. That was a great concept.
So fortunately, for us, there's a number of major pizza chain stores that are sitting closed. They've got the hot food licenses, they've got the refrigeration, they've got the air conditioning, they've got the infrastructure. So they've done like 90% of the work. So we just need to move in, rebrand the shops, bring in our own equipment. But the fundamental structure is there, so that actually shortens our time for actually the whole shop fit of the
So do you look at a closed pizza shop and think, there's a shop that sold pizza, let's open a shop selling pizza when it's been closed? What's your secret to know that that's going to work when they've shut?
Because we've got the years of experience, the 15 years of experience delivering food within half an hour. We are experts in the field of creating great tasting food and delivering it fast to the customers. The success of the business is that simple. And then again, In addition, our pizzas are 40% bigger, 50% cheaper than Domino's, so that's a market we're after. We are chasing after the Domino's market.
And you're going to achieve it by the looks of it?
Well, but listen, that's a long way away, one step at a time. We're not getting ahead of ourselves. I know the vision is to create 1,500 branches. I'll tell you now, Kevin, we'll never achieve that, but we will achieve 400, 500, 600 branches.
Why pizza? Why no Indian takeaway? Why? I don't get it.
Nobody in the UK is offended by a slice of pizza. That's why I am in the pizza market. And the other thing is, people think about food every single day. So the lifetime revenue per customer is into the thousands. Like, you get your car serviced once a year, right? The minute you drive out there, you're never driving back into that garage for a full year. But whereas with food, if it's good food and if it resonates with the customers are coming back every week, sometimes multiple times a week. And the other thing is, Kevin, no one is offended by a slice of pizza. You say 10 of us going out for a meal, we're going for sushi. Guarantee you there's going to be one or two people say, don't like raw fish. 10 people going out for an Indian meal, oh, don't like spicy food. 10 people going out for Chinese, I don't like sweet and sour. Whereas when it's pizza, no one's offended by a slice of pizza.
Everybody likes it.
Yeah.
That takes me on to building your business up requires building a good team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I noticed a video that you did, which I thought was really clever as well, is about recruitment red flags. What's a red flag to you when somebody wants to come on board your team?
I look at, and I learnt this from Accenture in London when I worked there, if you work for more than 4 places in the last 3 years, that's an automatic no, and that does make sense. So for me, that's one of the things I look for. What's their track record? Are they quite loyal? Are the employees quite happy working in one place for 3-4 years? If they are, that's a major green flag for me. I love that. I've only ever worked for my dad for 5 years, for Accenture for nearly a decade, and then myself. I've not really job hopped, and I know there is a bit of a trend, you job hop from one place to another place to another place to increase your salary. I prefer people who are just like, they work in less places, but for longer, because when I bring people onto my team, A, they're well paid. Secondly, we're going to invest in them. And if we are going to pay them well and invest in them, it would be good if they're around for at least 2-3 years.
How you're making your franchisees improve the service that they can offer compared to their competition?
We're giving them the blueprint for success. I delivered food, cooked it from scratch, delivered it to the customer's door within 29 minutes. The 29-minute delivery guarantee, I ran that for 5 years straight. That's what put me on the map. That's what made me famous. That got national coverage on the news channels, all the media channels, magazines. And we're copying and pasting that exact same model into Boss Pizza. So the franchisees get that exact blueprint. And we've set up the systems, the processes, the training that would enable them to do so.
Okay, so it's positive, which is great. That's going to just right off kilter for a minute, because I'm just going to jump on to how negativity can set in quickly and how you nip it in the bud.
Mm-hmm.
And an example I'm going to use is you were building your house,
mm-hmm.
and your banister rail
mm-hmm.
was white.
Yep.
And you had 100 men working.
If you are doing anything spectacular in your life, I guarantee you will be bombarded with negativity. And what I would say is never let other people's negativity slow you down or get you down. And I mean, I've done many building projects, and there's always people, builders, experts, you name it. Everyone's got a bloody opinion, right? And when I was building my house, when I was building that staircase, it took 2 years to put in. It really is a work of art, if I say so myself. I'm very proud of it. People just couldn't see the vision, whereas we've got the vision in our head. We know exactly what it's going to look like. And someone who's just come in to do the project or help on one part of the project, they don't have access to that information, so they'll just be hitting me with the negativity. I think just generally, whether it's building projects, whether it's life, whether it's sports, no matter what you want to achieve, we are a nation of negative naysayers. So what I would say is, don't let that negativity get you down or slow you down.
Good answer. Takes me now onto the positivity things. Marketing for the business. You did a post on LinkedIn and you had an investor come through that.
Exactly. So I say there is no point doing a good job if no one knows about it. We put out 3 big posts a week. And what is the point of actually doing a great job and no one knowing about it? So we're putting out a great job. People are recognizing the Boss Pizza brand, and then people want to jump on board. So we got Boss Pizza's valued, when we just started, Boss Pizza was valued at £2 million within the first few months. An investor invested £100,000 for 5% of the business, which valued it at £2 million. Now, other investors want to come on board and take a slice of the action as well, because they see that this brand has got the mileage, we've got a great team in place, we've got the track record. So it's almost like, I wouldn't say nothing's guaranteed, but the chances of success are rather high.
I want to talk now about the person that might be interested in opening a Boss Pizza franchise. So let's get to the nitty gritty. How much is it going to cost?
A Boss Pizza franchise would cost, I would say, in the region of £100,000 to £120,000.
What does that get them?
That gets them the franchise fee, that gets them the shop fit, all of the equipment, the marketing launch. So you're probably talking about £120,000. You've got it well covered. Kevin, the way we're going to build this business, we're trying to keep it as low cost as possible. We want to put as maximum amount of profit into the franchisee's pocket. They're going to grow the business for us. They're going to come back to us in 6 months, a year, and saying, Ajmal, this is great. We want another shop. We want another shop. My cousin wants a shop. My brother wants a shop. My friend wants a shop. We are going to use the franchisees to grow the Boss Pizza brand across the country. And the way that we're going to do that is by putting the maximum amount of profit into their pockets rather than trying to milk them for as much money as we can.
One of the things that kills a lot of franchises and franchisees is the percentage of royalty.
Yeah.
How's yours going to work?
So we're £500 fixed royalty per month. That works out at 3 pizzas a day.
And if I'm making £1 million a month, I'm paying you
£500.
So it's fixed.
Yeah, fixed, 100%, guaranteed. And that's a great thing. So going back, so if you're making good profit, Kevin, you're going to come back to me and say, Ajmal, I want to sign up for another store. So it goes back to this building a big business where everyone is winning along the way, rather than one party being too greedy and taking all the money. That's not the way we're going to grow.
And if somebody really wants a franchise but they don't have the money, how can they get this money raised?
Well, we've got financing options as well. But you do need at least like £50,000-60,000 of your own capital, and then the banks can finance the other half as well.
What type of money can a franchisee expect to make? I'm assuming that depends on location, turnover, but give me an example.
We've got there's no hard and fast rule, but we expect franchisees, the figures that we quote are, and this is based on our data and our experience, £8,000 per week per every 50,000 people in your delivery area. So for example, if you're in, I don't know, a densely populated area where you've got maybe 150,000 people in your area, you should be expecting to make, it won't be 8 times the 3, it would be maybe about £15,000 to £20,000 per week, which is very, very good.
And what would a typical launch look like? So you've built the store, they're ready to roll, it's day 1 of opening. What does a Boss Pizza launch look like?
Boss Pizza launches and parties are mega. So we bring the team down. We've got a team that does 6 weeks of pre-launch marketing. So we launch the branches with a big bang. There's a lot of money that's invested behind the scenes into the party. Everyone in town will know that the Boss Pizza brand has arrived, and that a good launch party. If you spend good money on the launch party, you actually save money after the opening because everyone already knows about it and they want to try it. So you actually save money in the marketing downstream.
And I noticed a video where you went into one of the Boss Pizzas and you gave pizza away free to the kids.
Yep.
Genius, because they're going to keep coming back. What was behind that? Was it to get the name out there, or was it the store getting slow returns, or was it just to say, do you know what, we've landed, we're here, come and buy from us?
Yeah, I think it's generally because we were launching the new lunch campaign, so what better way to get, give out loads of free lunches, all the school kids are buzzing, we gave out school lunches to all the businesses. It's a great way, it's a great low-cost way of landing the campaign in the local area. The flip side would have been spend hundreds of pounds on Facebook campaigns or media advertising. Why not just give that much? Why not just spend that much money giving the product away for free where people can try it and then they're much more likely to come back?
And what's setting Boss Pizza apart from your competition?
We're bigger, better, fresher than the competition. So we're 40% bigger, 50% cheaper, and we're fresher because we make our dough fresh in store. It doesn't get delivered like twice a week. And we're pitching ourselves against Domino's now. It's a David and Goliath battle. We are tiny. Let me make that clear. Boss Pizza is tiny, but we've got ambitions to grow.
I noticed that in the shops of Boss Pizza, they're spotless.
Yeah.
And they're modern. And it's like a wow. Somebody said to me the other day there, because I was talking about you, and somebody says to me, what do you think is going to set them apart? And I said, well, based on what I've seen, when you walk into a Boss Pizza, you're going, wow. But when I walked into a Pizza Hut, I'm going, ooh. Yeah. It's like, and I noticed that you're keeping everything clear.
Yeah.
There's no signs up, posters promoting everything else.
Yeah.
Is that a strict rule you've got in place, Dave?
100. Let me take you back. 100%. Let me take you back to 2009. When I came from London to start my very first food business, I opened up Mushtax. The number one priority was to win the Eat Safe Award from South Lanarkshire Council. That's the environmental health endorsing this cleanliness of your operation. For me, I am obsessive about cleanliness. And I get that from my father. Watching him grow up, he just had guys cleaning all the time. He would just be even cleaning himself. I get that from my father. If you've got a spotless, super clean operation, that just inspires confidence. And for me, that is the starting point for any food business, your health and your health and safety and your hygiene.
We've got a new Labour government in power.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen? Because, it's a bit unpredictable what's going to happen, especially in the business side, because there's a lot of businesses at the minute thinking we're coming up with the first budget. Anybody watching this video after October, the budget's been. But where do you see the next 5 years with this new government?
I think the taxes are going to increase. And I think that's going to be very, very bad for business. People don't actually realise how much tax we pay in this country. You get taxed on everything. I do a lot of business seminars up and down the country, and I used to say the only thing you don't get taxed for is walking. And then someone put up their hand, an expert, a VAT guy put up his hand, an accountant put up his hand and says, there's actually VAT on shoes, so you do get taxed for walking. We get taxed for breathing through a climate change levy that the businesses have to pay through their utility bills. Every single business, every single person, every single business is taxed to the hilt, and it's not sustainable. What we've done over the years, what progressive governments have done over the years is they've brought in VAT. Now, that's a good idea. They've brought in income tax. Oh, that's a good idea. They've brought in national insurance contributions. That's a good idea. All of these taxes individually are very good ideas, right? But collectively, over the years, the accumulation of all of those taxes now make it almost impossible for people to sustain a living or for business operators to make a profit. The taxes are now to the point where people are getting crippled, and it needs to change. And the worst thing the government can do, the Labour government can do, is actually increase the taxes. That would be foolish.
Which I think they are going to do.
Yeah.
If you could give any advice to anybody that's thinking about starting a business, what would it be?
If you're thinking of running a marathon, I'm going to flip that right back to you. Kevin, I'm thinking of running a marathon. Should I just put on my shoes and go and run a marathon?
No.
Right, what should I do? Just give me some advice, right? What should I do?
Train.
Right, okay, so
Start slowly.
Right, train my muscles, right? What about going to the gym? Should I go to the gym?
Possibly. Yeah.
What about buying some proper running shoes?
Yep.
What about going for some jogs in the evenings and in the mornings just to build up my endurance and my breathing? All of these things. So if you want to run a marathon, you can't just get out there and run the marathon. You've got to do the prep work. And it's the same in business. You've got to sharpen up your business skills so you're ready for the journey. Because the journey of entrepreneurship is so much more difficult than people believe. They think it's just easy and it's all about money. You have to make sacrifices. It's long hours. You have to have a lot of knowledge. There's so many different components that can lead to failure. So what I would say, my advice to people is sharpen up your business skills. Invest in yourself before you go out on that journey and start opening up a business.
Favourite pizza?
It's got to be the flaming chicken, the Boss Pizza, flaming chicken with spicy Italian sauce. Delicious.
And how many pizzas do you eat a week? Or is it one a month?
I eat about 1 or 2 a week.
Right, I'm now on to the last section where the previous guest writes a question down for the next guest.
Okay.
What is the one thing you would tell yourself now that you did when you started out, and what would you do different?
Excellent question. Okay. When I started out, one thing that really affected me was all the negative comments, the negative reviews, the trolls. I just sunk all of my money into the business. I gave up a very well-paid salary. I'm working 7 days a week, and all it takes is for trolls just to write negative comments and reviews and just to attack you publicly, sitting behind a keyboard using an anonymous name. Now we know about trolls. That's a word. Back in 2010, 11, that wasn't a thing. So I would take those things personally. So what I would say now is if I had to sort of give myself advice, no matter what you do, you're going to be bombarded with negativity. The best thing you can do is just ignore all that negativity and just remain focused on your task, and that will lead you to success.
Listen, this has been a great interview.
It's been great.
I'd love to thank you for coming down. I'm so excited that you came.
Thank you.
A bit starstruck,
not at all,
when you turned up. But love what you're doing. Love the concept of Boss Pizza. And next time I'm in Scotland, I'm going to pop in and try one.
Excellent. You'll be my guest.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Excellent. Cheers. Thank you.